Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, nearly every facet of our lives has been affected. That's why in 2021, everyone is looking forward to getting back to normal. But when it comes to education, normal is just not good enough, and it hasn't been for decades. The shocking truth is that only 35% of North Carolina's fourth graders can read on grade level. And when you break that down even further, we see a huge learning gap between economically disadvantaged students and their more affluent peers. And that was before 2020. COVID has reached into every corner of North Carolina, exposing and expanding access gaps in our education system. Communities across the state have had to recognize that not every student has even the most basic support and resources they need to be successful. So over the last several months, food has been delivered, devices have been handed out, Wi-Fi hotspots have been established. But for many students, there is still something missing. Turns out, the one access issue that has been less visible during the pandemic is actually the most important. Access to a well-prepared, highly supported educator. But even before 2020, access to highly effective educators was inequitable, partially because of a thinning pipeline into and through the profession. That leaves fewer schools with effective, board-certified, or even fully licensed teachers. And this problem has become catastrophic in higher poverty schools. So, what's going on here? Well, think about it this way. When it comes to education, there is one thing we can all agree on. Educators are the single most important school factor for student success. Even our state constitution emphasizes the importance of effective educators and school leaders in ensuring a sound basic education for all students. But many educators across the state agree. They don't feel as though they are treated with the respect, support, and professionalism that kind of responsibility carries. Educators are just as capable, dedicated, and driven as other highly skilled professionals. So, why is their experience so different from other highly skilled professionals? Well, believe it or not, the difference is about 100 years of innovation. Unlike other industries, most of our nation's education system is still organized more like a factory from the 1800s than a modern human-centered organization in the 21st century. And what does that have to do with educators' professional experiences? Well, try looking at it this way. Can you imagine what it would be like if our high-tech companies and service industries functioned like factories ran a century ago? How would the employees feel? If an organization doesn't evolve, it won't be able to recruit, let alone retain, the best and brightest when they can find a job that treats them like the unique professionals they are. You see, we're already 2 decades into the 21st century, and yet our educators are preparing our students for the modern economy while working in an educational environment that was designed in the 1800s. Sure, the technology and the curriculum have definitely changed. But the way we organize our schools and classrooms and the way we treat our education professionals has barely changed at all. Educators face outdated working conditions that treat them, in many ways, like indistinguishable factory workers whose job it is to mass produce a single one-size-fits-all product. The current education system ignores the unique skills and capacities of both teachers and students. And often, beginning teachers have the most challenging classrooms, more challenging than their colleague next door. The thing is, even though they're only a room over, it's difficult for either of them to step away from their posts to get or give the mentorship and support they need. And what about their boss? Principals are the chief executives of their school. They're in charge of every aspect of operation, from student learning to building sanitation, and everything in between. So, given the size, complexity, and importance of their work, principals should be given the preparation, the support, and the autonomy they need to be successful. But think about this. Because of the archaic nature of our education funding model, most principals don't even have access to their own school's budgets. And the education system is so outdated, the average principal has 50 direct reports. That's literally every single person in the school building. Imagine all the paperwork. And over time, their roles as coaches and mentors have been reduced to little more than a checklist and a few quick observations. We know that our educators are constantly striving to grow, collaborate, and innovate as professionals. But the system they work in makes that effort a heavy lift. That's why we believe it's time for educators to receive the respect, support, and resources that a practical, modern, human-centered organizational structure offers. So, what can that look like when we're talking about schools? Well, it looks like more collaboration between classrooms, which means removing the barriers that keep teachers at their stations, unable to ask for meaningful help. It looks like giving every educator the ability to exercise their professional judgment to personalize the experience of each student. It looks like career opportunities, which means adequately compensating educators for their roles as instructional coaches, or for taking on more responsibility, offering them pathways to reach more students, while keeping them in the classroom where they're most effective. And it looks like intentionally recruiting and preparing exceptional school leaders, then giving them the support and autonomy they need to serve their uniquely challenging communities. Simply put, it's time we treat educators like the professionals they are, so students receive the education they deserve. If the COVID crisis has taught us anything, it's that we can't go back to normal, because normal was never good enough for most of North Carolina's students. That's why Best in C is committed to ensuring a sound basic education for all students across North Carolina, by increasing access to effective educators and empowered school leaders. To learn more about our work, visit bestinc.org.